Hey everyone, Chase here from Rocky Mountain ATVMC here with our youth dirt bike overview of the Kawasaki KLX140. All right everyone, we are back again with another youth dirt bike overview. Today, we're talking all about the Kawasaki KLX140. There's a lot of great youth bikes that are out there. The 140 from Kawasaki is one of these. Now these are great for youth riders, beginner riders, and the 140 is also a very popular play bike for adults. So today we're just gonna go through and talk about this. We're gonna talk about the background history. We're gonna talk about the specs of this bike, the size of it. We're also gonna bring in a youth rider to help give a good size reference of what size rider is a good fit for this bike. And then to finish everything off, we're gonna talk about some tips and tricks to get the most out of these. We're also gonna show you some bolt-on parts that we've put on these to help spruce it up a little bit. But remember, this is part of a series. There's a lot of great youth bikes that are out there. We bring in as many as we can and we talk about all the different bikes. We give size references. So if you're not quite sure what bike or what size rider is gonna be a good fit for the bike you're looking at, get subscribed to our YouTube channel. That way you stay up to date and you do not miss out on these videos. All right, so to get started, let's just give you a little background history on this bike. So we gotta rewind all the way back to 2002. In that year, Kawasaki came out with their KLX110, which is a very popular youth and pit bike for adult riders. That bike is still being made. And then in 2003, they released the KLX125. That bike was only around for a few years, from 2003 through 2006. Then they took a short little break, and then 2008 was the first year that we saw the KLX140. Now in that year, they actually released a couple different models. You have the standard version, which I have here in front of me, which has a 17-inch front wheel and a 14-inch rear. They also have the 140L, which is the big wheel version of that year, which has a 19-inch front and a 16-inch rear. Now what's great about the KLX140 is that for all these years until now, 2019, this bike has pretty much remained unchanged. Very little changes to it. In fact, the biggest update that we saw was in 2017, they added their G version. So you have the KLX140G, which is same chassis, same motor, same everything, but you now have a 21-inch front tire and an 18-inch rear, so almost a full-size bike. And then in 2019, the other big update, they updated the plastics to be a little bit more current with the newer bikes, but aside from that, they really haven't changed. And what's nice about that, it makes it easy to find parts. Now, retail on these, brand new for the standard version, you're about $3,100. For the big wheel, the L, you're about $3,400. And then when you get up to the G, the full-size front and rear tire, you're about $3,700. But like I said, there's a lot of these out there. So if this is the bike that you're looking for, if you're patient, you look hard enough, you usually can find one used in pretty good shape, like this 2008. And you can find it at a pretty good price. And like I said, there's so many parts out there that it's not gonna be difficult to find the parts that you're looking for. Now, as far as the specs go on this bike, you're a 144cc air-cooled 4-stroke engine. What's nice about the 140, smooth power, plenty of it. So for youth riders, riders that are just starting out, very easy to ride. You're a 5-speed manual transmission, so you're pulling in a clutch, you're shifting through all 5 gears. 1.5 gallon fuel capacity for the tank. This is an e-start. There is no Kickstarter. So for riders that have a hard time kicking a bike over, well, they don't have to worry about that with this bike. But there is kind of a process when it comes to using the electric start on these. So you'll notice that behind the number plate, you have your power button. You're gonna press that, you'll see a light turn on. Once you press that, you've got your choke right next to it, so just pull the choke out. On the left side of the handlebar here, you have an off-on switch, switch that to on. Once you've done those steps, then you just come over here to the start button on the right side, press that, that fires the bike right up. So kind of a process, but once you get the hang of it, really not that difficult. Just remember though, that once you're done, you wanna make sure you turn that power button off that's behind that number plate. As far as suspension goes, you're 7.1 inch of travel in the front as well as the back. That's across the board for all 3 different model sizes. And that's something else that I really like about the 140s is that you have a disc brake in the front and the rear. So the brakes on these are actually good, a lot better than drum brakes that we see on a lot of the other smaller bikes that are out there. So now let's talk about who this bike is for. Probably one of the most common questions we get is what size rider is a good fit for the 140? So let's talk about seat height. So for the standard version, you're 30.7 inches at the seat. If you go up to the big wheel version, the L, you're at 31.5, and then when you jump up to the full size version, you're almost 34 inches. So there is a good difference in height from the standard to the full size, so something to consider. But if you look at this chart that we have made, it compares the different sizes in the 140 to some of the other popular bikes about the same size from different manufacturers. So you can use that chart as a reference. But what we want to do now is we want to bring in a youth rider who's about the right age and size for the 140. We're going to give his dimensions, have him sit on the bike. That way you can use him as a reference to know what size rider is going to be a great fit for this bike. All right, everyone, so now I have a helper here to help me as far as the sizing reference goes for this bike. I've got Hayden. Hayden's 11 years old. He's pretty tall for an 11-year-old. He is between 5'2" and 5'3". Now Hayden, go ahead and hop on the bike for me. So when Hayden gets on there, if you look down at his feet, you can see he's able to touch the ground flat-footed pretty comfortably. I'm not gonna say he's too tall for this bike. I actually think he's a really good fit. You know, for an entry-level rider, it's important for them to be able to get their feet on the ground easily. So you can see, use him as a size reference. So I would say around, you know, that 5 foot, maybe just under 5 foot to Hayden's height, maybe an inch or two taller, would be a good fitment for this KLX 140. All right, so now that you have seen what size rider is a good fit for this bike, well, we just want to give you a couple tips and tricks, some things just to look out for, just to get the most out of these bikes. And then we're just going to show you some of the bolt-on parts that we have on here, just to show you how you can add some cool looking parts and spruce the bike up and even get some more performance out of it. So first up, carburetor. With any of these smaller play bikes that we do these overviews on, carburetors are always one of the things that we talk about. They're small carburetors, it means you have small jets in there. So it's important, if you're gonna be letting these sit for a longer period of time, say 2 months or more, you either wanna use a fuel stabilizer or you just wanna drain the carburetor. Because if you're not doing that, chances are your jets are gonna be gummed up and you're gonna spend time cleaning those out every time you take the bike out. So do those few steps, simple to do, it's gonna save you some hassle down the road. Also, with these smaller bikes, they're jetted pretty lean right out of the factory. So that means that sometimes it can be a little bit hard to start in colder weather, obviously, and also it takes a pretty long time for these to warm up. So what we've done, we have the Tusk Cold Start Jet Kit in here. So we just give you all new jets, you just throw them in there. That's gonna help the bike start better, especially in cold conditions. It helps it warm up faster. And on top of that, you can see we've got the T4 exhaust from Pro Circuit. It's a full exhaust system. We actually found that coupling this with that Cold Start Jet Kit, this bike just runs better. The exhaust sounds really good. You can see it looks awesome on the bike as well. And one thing that we like about this T4 exhaust is that the header still allows you to use your header guard that comes stock on the bike. So you're still getting that protection there as well. You look down at the very bottom, you want to protect these, so we actually have the Ricochet skid plate. These bikes do come with a stock skid plate, but it's plastic. It is super wimpy. So to beef up the protection, skid plate's going to be the way to go. The standard only has a ground clearance of 9.3 inches, so if you are gonna be doing maybe some trail riding, some more aggressive riding, definitely nice to have a skid plate on there. On the left side, your shift lever. The stock shift lever is not folding, which means if you have a crash or tip over, the junior misses learning to ride, well, typically those do bend pretty easily. So we've actually got the Tusk shift lever on here. It's got a folding tip. So if you do have a crash or tip over, that tip just folds out of the way, and that's gonna prevent you from bending your shift lever if you do have a tip over. Up here on the top, we've got the Tusk aluminum gas cap. Again, that's just adding some cool looks to the bike. Also, we've got the Tusk T10 CR mid-bend handlebars. A little bit wider handlebar. These are made from high quality aluminum, so they're not gonna bend nearly as easily as the stock steel bars that come on this bike. Also, what I love, you've got the ODI lock-on grips on here. The stock throttle tube on these is actually kind of weird. It's got these little ribs on it that are really fat, so it's really hard to actually get a new grip onto this. So we actually just did away with that, and we just put the lock-on grips from ODI. Levers are a big thing that you can have. We do offer extra levers for these bikes. Like I said, the little junior misses or whoever's riding it has a crash, levers do break off pretty easily, so it's always nice to have a couple spare with you just in case that happens. You also notice here on the left side of the handlebar, we have our Tusk on-off switch. So depending on the condition of yours, if you do need a new one, we have extra switches available. If you look at the tires, we've got some Bridgestone tires on here. Something that people don't really think about too often, but it's important, is for riders that are just starting out, if you want to build their confidence, you want to make sure that they feel like their bike has traction. So do yourself a favor, if your tires aren't in great shape, get some fresh knobbies on there. We offer a lot of different tires from different manufacturers for these. We also have heavy duty tubes in here, prevent flats, awesome to have those. Now for those disc brakes that we talked about, we have some new Tusk center brake pads in there. And then as far as the drive components, we've got a new primary drive chain and sprocket to finish all off. And of course, with any one of these youth bikes, youth riders love it when you have a custom graphics kit. So if you want to pick up some graphics, as you can see we have here, you can go to Attack Graphics, and they have a lot of great graphic choices that you can pick from. Again, you get a full customized kit with the rider's number, their name. You can pick your sponsor's logo that you want to have on there. And that is it. That is our overview of the KLX 140 coming from Kawasaki. Hopefully this video has helped you out to know whether this could be the bike that you are looking for if it's gonna be a good fit for your rider. But if you do have other questions or comments, leave those below. We'll get your questions answered. If you have a KLX140 and you have a tip or a trick, something that we didn't talk about in this video, well, leave those below. That's gonna help other riders out who are possibly looking to pick this bike up. If you wanna see all the parts, everything that we talked about, and buy these for your KLX140, very simple, just click on the link or head over to RockyMountainATVMC.com. All you have to do on our homepage is just enter the make, the model, and the year of your bike, and that will help you see all the parts that are built specifically for the 140. I'm Chase at Rocky Mountain. We'll see you on the trails.